Welcome to Nightmares on the Ave. This is a platform where we will discuss any and everything that could go wrong in real estate. My name is April Baldwin.
My name is Rashad, and today we have one of our very own nightmares that we like to share with you. Hey, where do we start with this one?
Yeah, I have no idea. This story was hectic. So I would have to say, first off, starting this story, getting a deal was the main thing. Going past this house every day, taking our kids to daycare and back. Right. I seen this particular property. Grass was super high. And then me and you were talking about it. I called on it. I did door knock on it as well.
Right.
Nobody ever answered the phone or answered the door. It was a Monday.
Right.
I drove past. Then I seen two people at the door. So I was like, okay, this is my perfect opportunity. Even with the kid in the back,
right.
I was pulling up.
Right.
So I pulled up and I introduced myself. I told them that, hey, I don't know if this house is vacant or if somebody's living here, they're trying to sell it, because I'm interested.
Right.
At that time, the guy's name was Chad. When I talked to him, he was saying that he was interested in selling it. So, and he has a buyer that was there to look at the property at the moment. So I was like, you know what, I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Right.
So I was on my way speeding back to you to let you know, like,
no,
yo.
You called me. You called me and said, and you was like, you were frantic. You said, oh, I think I got the buyer. I finally found her, but somebody's there. I got to drop Jalen off and I'm going to come right back. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. Do what you got to do. You was like, just run the numbers. So I started running the numbers, and then you left to go back and, you know, you spoke to Chad and everything.
His situation was really sad because obviously during COVID, a lot of people lost their jobs, lost their income.
Right.
But for him, he lost his job and was losing his house.
Yeah.
Again, met him on that Monday. He owed $42,000, and his house was gonna be foreclosed on that Thursday.
That Thursday, yep. And then I think that next day is when I went and seen it.
Yes.
Because we had the title expedited. Because usually the title take about a week to come back, but title company we were using at the time had it back the next day.
Yeah.
So I went and looked at the property. When I spoke to him, then I realized his skill set.
Yep.
And knew that he was a carpenter. You know, we're in real estate, so we, you know, invest in
houses.
flip houses.
We need a carpenter.
So I knew he had to get out of his house. So I came up with a solution where he can, you know, live in the property for free and work with us on our flips that we had. So he agreed to that. Everything was going good, and then it got to a point where he moved out. He moved out of his property because by that time we needed
our tenant to move in.
Yeah, our tenant needed to move in, so we needed it vacant. So he was working on the houses. By this time, you know, obviously he was collecting a little bit of money. So we had started getting him into a hotel, hotels and stuff, because he couldn't stay into the property at that moment. So he was in the hotel, and we had a big job to do the next day.
Yeah.
I was calling Chad. He wasn't answering the phone. And next thing you know, like 2 days later, he called us. Well, no, he showed up to our house.
Yes, he showed up to the house.
Showed up to the house.
Our personal house.
Personal house. He showed up to I don't even know how he knew where we lived, but he showed up, and he was crying, saying that he had been locked up because he got in a fight with the
manager
hotel
at the
owner.
hotel,
Right.
yeah.
Got in a fight, not the manager, but the owner of the hotel. He got in fighting because he said it wasn't a very good hotel. You know, it was a motel. So he said it was blood on his sheets. And he went to confront the manager to get him new sheets, and somehow they got to fighting and whatnot. So I know he said that he needed $300 because someone bailed him out. I gave him the $300 and told him don't come back to the house anymore. I'll meet him at his property that we purchased from him. We finished that property up. So then we were in another house that he was renovating. Mind you, that house was
That
demolished.
was demo. Yeah, that was demo to the studs. And it had mold.
It had mold everywhere. So when he came to our house that day, let me backtrack. He came back to the house that day, and he asked if he can sleep in that house because he didn't have any money for a hotel. And I wasn't going to give him just, you know, money for a hotel. He went, slept inside of there. He was waiting on us to start the framing because that's where he was going to get paid a nice amount to, you know, get him on his feet. So he referred me to a roofer because we had to put the roof on the house first because the roof was in bad condition. That's how it got all the water damage in it. He referred me to a roofer, a friend of his. So we met the roofer there. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning. he was drunk, 9 o'clock in the morning. So I didn't think too much of it because I know he had guys that work with him. So once he started on the roof and everything went good. Did a good job on the roof. But I noticed him telling a lot of jokes that was kind of hinting. You know, these were white guys, so he was telling a joke that was kind of hinting towards kind of like a racist undertone. But I didn't pay too much to it. So I know the roofer said that his father had a property that he was looking to sell. And I know he asked me, he said, you know, if you're interested, come take a look at it, but you just have to be a little more presentable. And we was like, presentable? What do you mean?
Because he was definitely not the one to be
yeah, saying presentable. So we didn't think too much of it. We wanted to look at the property because it was a deal. You know, any house you can make money off of it. I wasn't going to just let that not, you know, go see it. So when he seen the property, his dad loved us.
Yeah, he was so sweet.
Dad loved us. So Chad, which is, you know, a white guy, we finished looking at the property. You were sitting in the car.
When we were leaving.
I was standing in between the door, and Chad, because we had a contractor also. We have a contractor also that Chad had been taking orders from, because typically, you know, I try not to be into the properties. So Chad had mentioned to me, he said, it's a little bit confusing because I don't know whether to get you know, direction from you or Anthony, your contractor. And he said, and I know you the head nigga in charge. So at that point,
and I was in the car like, hold on, what?
I didn't hear shit else.
And I was just looking at you like, oh, I know this finna be.
Right. So he said, I know you the head nigga in charge. I let him get his shit off. By the end, I told him, yo, don't say that shit to him. I checked him. And at this point, I'm coming from behind the car door because I don't know where it's going.
Exactly.
You know, you sitting in the car, and he said that I didn't know how he was going to take it at that moment.
On top of, they both was drinking.
Right. They were both drinking that day, and we haven't never seen Chad like this. We've been working with Chad from that point for at least 5-6 months.
Yeah, I think it was about 6 months at that time.
About 6 months at that time. And so next thing you know, he was like, you know, I don't see color. You know, I don't, all that, you know, what they say. He was like, I don't see color. I understand, you know, that it was offensive, but I didn't mean anything bad. I was like, yeah, just don't say that shit no more.
Exactly.
You know? So he was like, I respect that. So, you know, we shook on it, let bygones be bygones. Mind you, the other guy, I can't even remember his name, but he came up behind Chad, because he was drunk. Both of them were drunk, and put him in a rear naked choke. And chokes Chad out.
And Chad turning red. I'm like, oh my God, this is going left.
Damn near passes out in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
Yo, next thing you know, we broke them up. Chad was trying to kill a guy.
Oh,
and we were in the middle of a busy road. Chad was trying to kill a guy. So I remember leaving. And that's when we went back to Chad's.
Yeah.
Chad's, where he was staying at the time. And both of them, you know, were out there.
Yeah, and Chad was in the middle of the street.
He was in the middle of the street.
Stretched out.
Stretched
out in the middle of the street.
Stretched out in the middle of the street.
That was insane.
And we already knew we was going to cut Chad off after the job. We just needed
first
the
of all,
house framed
him
up.
pulling up at the crib was one strike one for me.
One strike, yeah.
And then in the car with the nigga, I was like, hey, nah.
Right.
Yeah, we done.
And you said that. And then we got to a point where he was still staying at the house we were renovating.
Yeah.
But by this time, the house had started looking a lot better. It was framed up, and we were getting all the trades in. It had drywall and everything in there. I know we got to a point where the guy that Chad, I think Chad was working for someone else. Chad was working for another older guy that was coming through the neighborhood and giving them little side jobs. Because at this point, we started seeing Chad decline.
Yeah, he was going downhill. I mean, he had his, you know, he did get a truck, a van. But he then started to go downhill a little bit. Right.
So then we needed to decide to get put on the house. Which he said he can do it.
Yeah, he did. He said he could do a lot, is what he said. So we thought he could do the siding.
Right.
And we was like, okay, you got the job on that one.
So then from that point, he started on the siding. He started, and it was taking so long. I think it was like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
And he had like a probably a 4-foot section. So I had to put the pressure on him. I said, yo, Chad, I need this siding done because I need this house done. We was in the house for a while because we had to rebuild the whole house.
Yeah.
Chad ended up hiring some other guys to, he subbed the work out to some other guys. I remember he subbed the work out to the guys, and I remember they finally finished the house.
And it looked good.
It looked good. And I paid Chad cash.
Yeah.
Paid Chad cash. It was like $5,000 that I had left on the job. Paid him. Next morning I called him. He didn't answer. I ain't think none of it. I paid him $5,000, so I'm thinking he's probably out drinking. I'll find him later. Find him later. A week went by. I checked in on the property. It was vans everywhere at the property. So I'm confused. I don't know who's out there. I get out the car. Because
we couldn't find Chad.
Right, couldn't find Chad. Wasn't looking for him though.
Yeah, that's true.
Got out my car, and it was, vans all out there, and it was some Hispanic crew out there.
Yeah.
So, I'm talking like, what do you guys want? This is my property. He said, well, we put the siding on the house, and we wasn't paid.
Yeah.
But I know I paid Chad.
In cash, $5,000.
Cash, $5,000 to pay them. So they said that they were about to take the siding off the house because they hadn't got paid. So I'm like, nah, the hell you is. You're not going to take the siding off this house because I paid for it, right?
Exactly.
I feel like they didn't know the proper channels because they could have put a mechanics lien on the property.
They sure could have.
But you don't go to someone because you're trespassing at that point, So you don't go and tell them you're taking the siding off. So I was trying to plead with them, tell them, look, I got other jobs, I got other houses that you guys can do work in and whatnot. But I'm looking for Chad myself.
Exactly.
I was looking for him myself because I felt like he was supposed to do a job that I paid him some money on.
Yeah, we had a couple of properties at that time, so.
Right. But so, long story short, they didn't take the siding off the house, but they almost, if I wouldn't have showed up that day, them guys would have pulled that siding
off.
Right back off
their house.
They
would
have
have started all the way back over again.
Right. What do you feel like we could have did differently from that story? Like just meeting Chad.
So meeting Chad, I really thought, initially, my first encounter with him, I thought he was a stand-up guy. Just in conversation, telling him, he told me his story about losing his job during COVID. So I'm like, okay. And then when he put up at the crib, when he, threw out the nigga word, I'm like, all right, now I'm really starting to feel you out. On top of when we were at that house that he was living in that we purchased, there were needles outside. So we didn't pick up on those signs.
I forgot about the
so
needles,
picking up on those little signs would have kind of, I felt, we would have moved it a little differently.
When we demoed the property, it wasn't just needles. It was hundreds of needles throughout the property. And I was thinking like maybe somebody's a diabetic
But he did say he was renting it out. So I think it would be kind of hard to justify that because he said he was renting it out. But still, if I, differently, I would have looked at that part of it too.
It was needles all in that house, and I didn't put two and two together because when your mind is stuck on, okay, I just need to get this house done. I don't care what your personal life is.
Exactly.
I will say this: we purchased that house subject to his house because he was $42,000 behind in taxes, and that was on a Monday, like you said. That was on a Monday. By Wednesday, I was driving. Wednesday I was driving down. We done got the title back. I was driving down to Virginia Beach, 2 hours away from where we live, to hand them a $42,000 check just to stop the foreclosure. I feel like obviously it was a deal at the time. It was a deal at the time, but I feel like if I could do it all over, I wouldn't have even done that.
I know.
Because that's a lot of money, and we didn't even know if his title
exactly.
was
the
the title came
back though. The title was good.
We didn't even know if he was going to leave the property.
Exactly.
Because that's what we were thinking about too. Remember when we said, okay, if we give him, because we ended up giving him $13,000 on top of
and I was like, we can go down a little bit, but you was like, nah, 13. I'm like,
because the numbers made sense, but we didn't know if he was going to leave. He ended up leaving. Everyone that we spoke to since then, like we done had properties since then, and said that, oh, Chad don't do framing. Chad is not a good worker. He builds decks. So we like, well, he was in our house doing everything.
Yeah, he framed up an entire house.
An entire house by himself. He framed everything up. And I seen Chad recently. This was recent.
Oh,
I
you
seen
did tell me
Chad.
that.
And he and I know I was driving down Forest Hill, and he was at the bus stop, and I rolled down the window and I yelled like, "Yo, what's up, yo?" And he acted like he didn't see me, but I know he seen me, and I know he seen me.
And then, I mean, the other thing I would say we should have done differently too is kind of check more frequently when about the siding to see who was actually doing the work, or maybe there could have been another route before just giving him $5K. But we didn't know he subbed it out, so I guess that wouldn't have.
We did. I knew he subbed it out.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I knew he subbed it out. I just didn't care. I just needed it done.
Yeah.
I just needed it done. But going back to calling me a nigga, he didn't actually call me a nigga. It was just he said it.
Yeah, but for me though, from my perspective, it felt like he called me that because that was my first encounter. Even, having somebody in that close proximity to me saying that's in another, in another
Right,
race.
another
So
race, right.
It was very uncomfortable.
Oh, for sure, it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing with men. I felt like I had to check them just because you were there.
Yeah.
I would have checked them anyway,
Yeah,
but I felt like it was extra pressure because if I'd have got back in that car,
you would have
and I know
heard
you.
everything. I'd have been like, this is crazy. It's never happened again.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I had to check, and I had to be, ready for anything that came along with it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but I feel like he was a good guy. I just felt like the other guy was influencing him.
He was definitely a big influence because that's when we seen the change.
Because I remember hiring the other guy to do a drywall job. And he told me he
Gosh,
can do it.
yeah.
And you know how I am with drywall.
Yes.
Drywall and floors need to be right. And he went in there, did he started mudding up the drywall. And I knew he was doing it wrong from the way he, his prep was.
Yeah.
Midway through the job, so I think he charged me $625 for the drywall job, and a drywall company was going to charge me like $1,500, but they'd have done it right. And he said he'd do it for $625. Me looking for a deal, I went with him, told him go ahead and do it. I remember he got not even halfway through the job. I think he started it and said, "Look, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you just give me $250 and just hire?" I said, "No, I can't."
That's why
No,
you do the contractor side. I'm doing the finding the deals, paperwork, because that stresses me out. That part stresses me out.
I felt like Chad was good up until, like I said,
Yeah.
up until that point. That's when I started seeing, especially getting a fight with the hotel owner.
Yeah.
How do you get to fight with and the guy was Arab.
Yeah.
He was, I guess, Arab. He was Arab, and then, you know me, I'm goofy. I asked him, I said, "Did you win?" He said he got a couple of licks on me. I'm like, how you get whooped? But all that stuff Chad be talking, you know. And it was one of those learning experiences that once you start seeing the signs early on, you got to walk away. No matter what the price is, you got to walk away because you will hem yourself up. It could have got to a point where Chad could have did something in that house, burnt it down, did anything to it just because he was using or anything. And we really helped that guy out.
We did.
We really helped that guy out. I remember, like I said, we gave him the $13,000. We stopped the foreclosure for showing up on his record, and then also we gave him. I felt like for the framing, because that we paid him on the side. For the framing, we paid him beforehand so he can buy a van.
Yeah.
I remember doing that, helping people.
Yeah.
And
sometimes helping people, it kind of puts you in a bind. So
they gotta want to help themselves. They gotta want to help
Definitely.
themselves. But it was just so much. When you're going through it, when you're in a property, you look at just start to finish. It's so much in between that you don't hear about. You don't hear everything that we went through in that house. A lot of stuff we forgot just because we were trying to get it sold, get it on the market.
Yeah.
A lot of things. People, when they look at us selling that same house for over $40,000 asking price, they don't understand what we went through.
We went through so much.
We went through so much in that property, just from him doing that into the property, from permits taking
forever to
Especially
come. During that time. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, Richmond was so terrible with the permits at that time. It was bad, but I feel like it was a learning experience.
Yeah.
Each house has its own learning experience.
It does.
And this is one of many stories that we have, because you never know. You can't anticipate going into the house because you're dealing with human. Human has different personalities. All you got to do is just learn how to pivot.
Exactly.
You know,
and I think we do a great job with
I think that's
pivoting.
what help us. That's what help us, because we pivot, we get out of it, you know, and we just move on. And we take the punches, roll with the punches, but we don't harp in the problem. I feel like that's what help us out. We don't harp in the problem, because I could have easily went and tried to look for Chad once the guys said that they were taking the siding off.
Yeah.
And I could have told him, yo, get out, you know, you trespassing, get off my,
Exactly.
you know, out my yard. But I felt like with Chad, you just can't help people that don't want to be helped.
That's
because
true.
for him to be that skilled, he should have had a job. There's jobs out here.
Yeah.
He didn't want to work.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized. Chad didn't want to work, you know. But yeah, that story haunted us for a while.
A long time.
We were in that house 10 months.
Yeah.
10 months was in that house, yeah.
But we got it done. And it's sold over asking. So, yeah. Thank you all for tuning in to our episode today, Offsides. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. And we will see you next time. We would love to hear your real estate nightmare story. Feel free to email them to us at nightmaresontheave@gmail.com. And who knows, you could be our next guest.